Man, are my Los Angeles Lakers going out sad. I mean, I originally had a feeling that if Goran Dragic had a choice as to which team he would sign with, he would probably sign with the team that has a significantly better chance of potentially winning a championship. And ultimately, it seems like he chose the team that he felt like was most likely to win a championship, and we're going to break this all down for you in just a second. Before we get to the content, just a reminder, we're giving away $500 to one of my followers on Instagram. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest and greatest NBA news, because I do not bring you guys news unless there is news to bring you guys. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Over a week ago, we saw the NBA trade deadline, and a plethora of absolutely crazy trades went down. One of these trades that was kind of swept under the rug was a trade that surrounded Goran Dragic, where Goran Dragic was traded alongside a first-round pick to the San Antonio Spurs for Thaddeus Young, Drew Eubanks, and a second-round pick. Now, honestly, a lot of Toronto Raptors fans didn't love this deal because adding another 6'8" forward in Thaddeus Young didn't really help them with their problems, which is the fact that they didn't really have a good backup guard rotation behind Gary Trent Jr. They didn't really have the greatest front court or rim protection for that matter, and they are currently in the playoff picture, so they were really hoping that they could get something done to boost their prospects in the short term. Nevertheless, Goran Dragic got bought out by the San Antonio Spurs during the final year of his deal, and at the age of 35, this seems like it will be, for lack of a better way of saying it, his last dance in the NBA. So chances are he's in full-on let's ring chase mode, because that's the thing that has eluded him the most throughout his career. So ultimately, he's going to sign with the team that he feels like is the most likely to win a NBA championship. So that's where this gets a little bit interesting, because as a Laker fan, I was holding out some hope that there was an opportunity for my Lakers to get him, but to be honest, it's just getting worse and worse for the Lakers. I don't expect them to be an exciting destination for any buyout candidates, considering how horrible their season has gone and the behind the scenes issues that they're currently going through, which we're going to bring a video out to you guys later on today. But Goran Dragic essentially made his decision, and according to Shams Charania, the Brooklyn Nets are officially signing Goran Dragic, which is an absolutely remarkable get for the Brooklyn Nets, especially when you consider the fact that Kyrie Irving's situation currently is a little inconsistent. So I can see why Goran Dragic went for this. First of all, I don't think any of us think the Brooklyn Nets are only as good as their record. I don't view this as your typical 8th seed, considering the fact that Kevin Durant has been injured, Kyrie Irving has been part-time, James Harden has been dealing with a hamstring injury all season long, which doesn't really matter anymore because he's not a member of the Brooklyn Nets, he's now a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. You now have Ben Simmons coming in his stead to go along with Kevin Durant whenever he's healthy and Kyrie Irving whenever he could play, which I don't know how that's going to look like in the playoffs. It'd be really interesting if Kyrie Irving was part-time all the way in the playoffs. I personally think that they should just let him back into the league at this point. But Goran Dragic hasn't really played much this year. He's only played in 5 games this season. I guess that's all the Toronto Raptors needed to say, hey, we don't want to play this guy anymore, because in those 5 games, he shot 29% from 3. I don't think that's a legitimate representation of the type of player he is. A better comparison and a better representation would probably be his final year on the Miami Heat, where his minutes were kind of declining. He played in 50 games, he averaged 13 points per game, shot 43% from the field, and 37% from 3 while attempting 5 threes per game, which honestly, if you're playing alongside Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons, assuming that Goran Dragic will be the starting point guard if Kyrie Irving cannot play, or even if he's not the starting point guard during those games that Kyrie Irving will not play, you really don't need to do much then to ensure that you will consistently hit your shots that will probably be wide open, considering the fact that you're going to be playing with Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant. This is a no-brain type of signing for the Brooklyn Nets that desperately needed some depth, considering the fact that that they were dealing with a ton of injuries this year. And ultimately, I support this decision for Goran Dragic because this will probably be the most likely route to winning a NBA championship, at least more likely than going to a team like the Los Angeles Lakers. Ultimately, I was thinking that the most likely team for him to sign with was the Dallas Mavericks because Mark Cuban and the Mavericks have been pursuing Goran Dragic to pair with Luka Doncic for the longest time, mainly because these two have familiarity from playing together for the Slovenian national team. Unfortunately, that just didn't seem to make sense for Goran Dragic, and I really don't blame him at this point because I think the forefront of his mind at this stage of his career is do whatever it takes to win a championship. The easiest team to see that has the best combination of star power. He has familiarity with the coaching staff. Bear in mind, Steve Nash was Goran Dragic's mentor when Goran Dragic was just a young kid playing on the Phoenix Suns during his first stint. So this just makes a lot of sense to me ultimately, and I honestly think it's a pretty adorable story that both Steve Nash and Goran Dragic are going to reunite with one another. In the end, this is a win-win situation for both sides. Goran isn't going to get paid that much to do what he needs to do. He's not going to be asked that much to do either. There's familiarity with the coaching staff, and the Brooklyn Nets get additional three-point shooting. When you combine that with the fact that they recently added Seth Curry and Andre Drummond in trades as well, this team is as complete and as loaded as you could hope to ever be. I honestly think the Brooklyn Nets scored big on the James Harden trade, trading a 32-year-old player that was often injured for a 25-year-old defensive lockdown defender in Ben Simmons that also can run the open court, that also brought in multiple role players, and now when you add in the fact that they just went out and signed Goran Dragic, there's no team that is more complete than the Brooklyn Nets. Now, for those of you guys that are frustrated and were hoping that Goran Dragic would even marginally improve your team's chances to potentially win a championship this year, there's still a lot of players in the buyout market that could potentially be signed or players that still have yet to be bought out. Such a player is a man by the name of Dennis Schroeder, who is most famous for turning down an $84 million contract from the Los Angeles Lakers, then signing a $5.9 million contract with the Boston Celtics, and then eventually getting traded to the Houston Rockets. Based off of what the Houston Rockets have been doing with John Wall, I would imagine that they plan on buying out Dennis Schroeder, but hey, I could be wrong. You never know what Houston's doing. DJ Augustine was also recently waived to make room on Houston's roster to bring in Schroeder. Originally, I thought Eric Bledsoe was going to get bought out, but it seems like he is going to stay on the Los Angeles Clippers. Regardless, I'm just going to keep him on this list just in case. There's also players like Tristan Thompson that recently got bought out after his trade from Sacramento to Indiana. And then, of course, Paul Millsap, who kind of seems to be a shell of his former self, are all potential options for those that are trying to improve their teams in the buyout market. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this move. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.